On November 24, 1971, a man bought a one-way ticket from Portland to Seattle under the name Dan Cooper. He was in his mid-40s, dressed in a business suit, carrying a black briefcase. He looked like any other businessman on the day before Thanksgiving. But he wasn't. Shortly after takeoff, he passed a note to a flight attendant. Thinking it was his phone number, she pocketed it. He leaned in and said, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." The note was clear. He was hijacking the plane. His demands were $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills and 4 parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve. He was calm, polite, and even ordered a bourbon and soda while he waited. The flight attendant, Tina Mucklow, became his primary contact. She later described him as a gentleman, not at all like the violent criminal she'd imagined. The flight circled the Seattle-Tacoma airport for 2 hours while authorities on the ground scrambled to meet his demands. The FBI gathered the money, photographing every single bill. The parachutes were sourced from a local skydiving school. Once everything was ready, the plane landed. Cooper exchanged the 36 passengers for the money and parachutes. He allowed the flight crew to stay, including the pilot, co-pilot, flight engineer, and Tina. His plan was far from over. He instructed the pilot to fly towards Mexico City, but with specific, very strange instructions. The plane had to fly below 10,000 feet at a slow airspeed of under 200 knots with the landing gear down. And he wanted the rear air stair, the staircase at the back of the Boeing 727, to be lowered. The pilots protested, saying it was unsafe, but Cooper was insistent. He knew what he was talking about. This wasn't an amateur's whim. It was a calculated move. As the plane took off again, Cooper calmly told the crew to go to the cockpit and close the curtain. That was the last time anyone ever saw him. Around 8 p.m., somewhere between Seattle and Reno, over the rugged, stormy terrain of southwestern Washington, Dan Cooper walked down that rear staircase and jumped into the freezing night, into a thunderstorm with $200,000 strapped to his body. What followed was one of the most extensive and expensive manhunts in U.S. history. The FBI, codenamed NORJAK for Northwest hijacking, immediately began its investigation. They had a few clues. Cooper had left behind his black clip-on tie, a tie clip, and 2 of the 4 parachutes. He'd also smoked 8 Raleigh cigarettes. From this, they managed to get a partial DNA profile, though DNA technology was decades away from being useful. The search on the ground was a monumental task. The military, FBI agents, and local volunteers scoured the dense forests of Washington and Oregon. They were looking for a man, a parachute, or a bag of money. But the terrain was unforgiving, thickly wooded, mountainous, and blanketed in snow. The search turned up nothing. It was as if D.B. Cooper had vanished into thin air. The name, by the way, was a mistake. A reporter, in the heat of the moment, confused the hijacker's alias with an Oregon man named D.B. Cooper, who was questioned and cleared. But the name stuck. The mysterious Skyjacker would forever be known as D.B. Cooper. For years, the case went cold. Theories swirled. Did he survive the jump? Experts were divided. The conditions were terrible. Freezing temperatures, high winds, and a jump into a pitch-black, unknown wilderness. He was wearing a business suit. Even an experienced skydiver would have found it incredibly difficult. Many believe he likely died on impact or from exposure. Others argue that his precise instructions and calm demeanor suggested he was an experienced paratrooper, perhaps a veteran who knew exactly what he was doing. Then, in 1980, a glimmer of hope. A young boy named Brian Ingram was digging a fire pit on the sandy banks of the Columbia River near a place called Tina Bar. He unearthed 3 bundles of rotting cash. He and his family turned it over to the FBI. The serial numbers were a perfect match. It was Cooper's money, nearly $5,800 of it. This discovery only deepened the mystery. The money was found far from the projected drop zone. How did it get there? Did Cooper lose some of it during the jump? Did he land in the river and drown? Or did he bury it, intending to come back for it later? Extensive searches of the area yielded no other clues. The rest of the money, over $194,000, has never been found. Over the decades, the FBI investigated more than 1,000 suspects. There was Richard McCoy Jr., a Vietnam veteran who staged a similar hijacking just a few months later. He was caught, but his physical description and methods didn't quite match. There was Dwayne Weber, who on his deathbed told his wife, "I'm Dan Cooper," but DNA evidence later ruled him out. Countless others claimed to be Cooper or were suggested by friends and family, but none of the leads ever panned out. The tie Cooper left behind became a key piece of evidence in the 21st century. A team of citizen scientists analyzed it using an electron microscope. They found particles of rare earth elements like cerium and strontium sulfide. These materials were unusual for the 1970s, but were used in very specific high-tech industries. For example, Boeing used them in the supersonic transport development labs, suggesting Cooper might have been an engineer or a manager at a company like Boeing. A fascinating lead, but still not enough to identify him. In 2016, after 45 years, the FBI officially announced they were suspending the active investigation. They had chased every credible lead and dedicated thousands of man-hours to the case. It remains the only unsolved skyjacking in American aviation history. The NORJAK case files are massive, a testament to the decades of work, but the final chapter is still unwritten. So, who was D.B. Cooper? Was he a disgruntled veteran, an aerospace engineer, a common criminal with an audacious plan, or just an ordinary man who decided to do something extraordinary? Did he die in the Washington wilderness, his skeleton and the rest of the money still waiting to be discovered? Or did he survive, escaping with the cash to live out his days in anonymity, a secret smile on his face every time he saw his story on the news? The legend of D.B. Cooper is more than just a crime story. It's a modern folk tale. He's become a symbol of rebellion, the guy who beat the system and got away. He planned his crime with incredible precision, remained calm under pressure, and then disappeared without a trace. And perhaps that's how it's meant to stay. What do you think happened to him? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to like and subscribe for more unsolved mysteries.